off 10 years ago.
Wow.
And Sharon was doing the night shift, right?
No, it's the afternoon.
Afternoon, yeah.
Mhm.
And I was a guest of hers. And I kept coming back.
Amen.
And I grew and I got my own show now. But I'm so glad to see you,
Good
Sharon.
morning.
I'm happy to see that you also stepping up in the race
Well.
for District 5 City Council.
Yes, ma'am.
So me and Sharon go back a long ways,
know.
right? Sharon introduced me to T. Michael Thomas.
Touch FM.
Yep, 106.9. Remember, he used to always say 106.9.
That was him. He wanted to say 10. Yeah, I'm Pastor Charles, Brother Charles Muhammad.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we lost that station. But Boston Praise Radio and TV is still here. 15 years.
Wow.
They started 2010, and they still here, and I'm so blessed. Because I can bring people on from the community. I can bring people that are running for office, elected officials, community leaders. I get to bring a lot of people into the station. So.
Oh yeah, I was one of the. Oh wow! So first, I have to thank you for bringing me on the show, and I have to thank Pastor Wall, who is the visionary that actually thought about the fact that we need an independent voice.
That's right.
When it comes to the community. Mm-hmm. And when I say independent, an independent voice that is not shackled by certain powers, whether they are political, spiritual, financial, and standing as a beacon to the community, particularly the community of color.
That's right.
When you're talking about empowerment and ownership. So
let's just call it what it is, black people.
Well, and so Pastor Wall, I've known him since way before any of his hers turned gray. He and his beautiful wife and his ministry, and he's always been a man of God.
Yes,
and always been a powerful voice, whether it was political or spiritual. And so I have to give honor to the man of the house,
that's right,
the head of the house, and also to Sister Priscilla, because I met you and you were out there fighting in the snow and Boston jobs policy, and you used to call in on Boston Praise Radio and say what it was like out there in the picket line. I remember that. You'd call up, and so for those of us who have always been fighting for the community and always been, this is just another level, but new levels, new devils.
Yes, right.
And so District 5 is one of the many districts in the city of Boston. And so I have to give a shout out to Domingos DeRosas, because I was out there getting signatures for him. We were in West Roxbury. And he said, sis, it's not a democracy if there's only one person on the ballot. Mm-hmm. And at that point, no one had really, people had pulled papers, but nobody had really been certified to be in the ballot. But there was already an incumbent. Mm-hmm. And so the assumption is that person's going to run again unless they said they weren't going to. And that was a Sunday. And, I'm a woman of God. I've been saved since I was 23. Praise God. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Saving my life. So I really have to give honor to God.
That's right.
Because if it wasn't for him, it would be no me ever. I mean, and so I went to church that day, and the message was about Esther. Mm-hmm. And being born for such a time as this, mm-hmm. and being prepared to be able to fight. So, I said all the messages that they could have said. It was Esther. I was like, wow, okay, God. So hold up, So I'm one of those Christians. You need some confirmation sometime, Mm-hmm. I mean, when Gideon was on the threshing floor, and he heard the voice that said, "Mighty man of valor," and he was like, "Who, me?" So I was like, "Who, me?" And so I heard that, and then I asked my daughter, if I do this, then it's going to be the family, and this isn't something you asked for. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? She's like, "Mommy, I love this for you. This is what you do." Mm-hmm. So a couple more people call our house and ask for some help. What's the big deal? Go for it. Mm-hmm. So, I heard from God, and I heard from my daughter, my family, and then I went on Facebook, and I got 250 hits. As far away. I have to give Sister Ibina, my sister from down under, because she's been following me since I've been in Boston Praise Radio. She hit me up from Australia. She can't donate to me, but she's been giving me support. And then Horace Smalls from France, and he said, "Where do I send the check?" I was like, "Whoa, okay, let's go." And it's been interesting. Pastor Wall and I were talking earlier. It's different when you're working on someone's campaign versus when you're the candidate.
That's right.
It's a totally different.
Yes.
It's some foolywang going on. You really. So I have to, really thank any candidate. And anybody, actually, everybody didn't get to be on the ballot. I think there were 78 people that pulled papers, and then you got the same amount of time as anybody else to get a certain amount of signatures to get on the ballot. So if you're
how many did you need?
So I only needed 200. District candidates need 200, and then at large need 1,500, and the mayor needs 3,000.
Right.
And then the games begin.
That's right.
The games really begin in terms of the politics, as T. Michael Thomas says, the politics.
Yep, the politics. That's right. So Sharon, I know you're an educator. I know that's your first love. You're a professor. You are a teacher. You are a mentor. You have your own broadcast on BNN. I think
Black Teachers Matter.
Black Teachers Matter.
I have two.
I thought it was up another level.
On another level is the TV show that's been on forever, and then about a year or so ago, I started a radio podcast, Black Teachers Matter, that's named after the 501c3 that I have, Black Teachers Matter.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about Black Teachers Matter.
So I'm a Black teacher. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. And I am still getting my doctorate in education at Northeastern University. And so that was one of the objections I had when Domingos was like, you should run. And I said, man, it's all this work. I'm in school. My daughter's in school. I'm in school getting my doctorate in education. And you got to do all this work. He says, sis, you're always doing the work. You've been doing the work. What's the big deal? Pull the papers. And the reason why I went back to school is because I could. And I worked at Northeastern University in the African American Institute, John D. O'Brien African American Institute, as an adjunct professor and an academic advisor. And so we were getting students, Boston Public School, but students who qualified to get into Northeastern but didn't necessarily qualify to get into the program. So the Ujima Scholars Program, which has been named something else at this point, there were 3 scholarship programs at the African American Institute. And little by little, they were taken away or whittled away or pushed away, just different kinds of things. But I first started teaching when I started teaching Sunday school. I was at Grace Church of All Nations with, he's now Bishop.
Foxwood.
Bishop Foxwood. Foxwood, yeah. So we used to call it Foxy's Place. Not disrespectfully, but and my husband and I were youth leaders there, youth pastors there. So we started with 6 kids whose parents dragged them to church.
Right.
And Sister Mary Johnson, God bless her, I think she's still in Florida now. Oh, beloved, I keep praying for someone to deal with the young people. He keeps showing me you. And I was like, at that point, I was getting my master's degree. And at Cambridge College.
I went to Cambridge College. So that's
College.
Another thing we have in common.
We have in common, that's right. I was getting my master's degree from there. And I said, Sister Mary Johnson, I love you and I respect you and I love God. But I prayed this morning. He mentioned nothing about you. He sure enough didn't mention nothing about teaching Sunday school. I said, I'm still learning myself, Oh, we have books. We'll teach you. I'll carry you along. Oh, beloved. I said, oh, man. So out of respect to her, really, in her leadership and her anointing, and Pastor Wall calls my anointment, out of her anointment. And she was just such a powerhouse. And there's so many powerhouses in Boston. Pastor Wall is one, and he was mentored, by
Reverend Haynes.
The great Reverend Haynes, who was also an elected official. So our history has always been, as Black people, seeking God, whether it was Harriet Tubman, Dagmar Vasey, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, faith-based. And so that wasn't so strange. And when I was teaching, and I can't name the school because I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement because I won. Part of me fighting for Black teachers, and initially for myself, I was teaching at that particular school and at Springfield College, School of Human Services, and pushed out. And I was, sometimes you just get tired of fighting. Yeah. And so I said, I'm a teacher. I got qualifications. And so I'll just get another job. And I'm already teaching the weekend. But then one of my coworkers called me and said, Sharon, you'd be so proud of your students. I was like, well, why? What happened? And I love my kids. I love my kids and my parents. And he said, because when they found out what happened to you, the students protested. I was like, what? They stayed to protest. And then again, I prayed about it and showed up that Monday morning really, really early. And my kids started grabbing me and crying and everything. They said, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. Don't I look okay? They said, they told us you left because you were sick. So immediately people started lying. I was like, okay, wait a minute. I was trying to beat Martin Luther King up in his piece. Now you're going to have to see a little bit of Malcolm coming out here. And the kids were telling me this stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, I can't. So, you and I have a background as being activists and community activists. So I prayed about it, and I went down to Target and got me some red, black, and green paperwork, and I showed up the next day, Black Teachers Matter. And I was out there protesting for about 4.5, almost 5 months. And my students came out there with red apples with Black Teachers Matter, and they was Black Teachers Matter. And then the parents found out. They said, it's her? They did this to her? Oh, no, let me tell you. And I started finding out more teachers that they had done it to. And see, so I'm writing a book. You've written a book, How I Got Over, right? And when I get some time, so I'm already been working on a book, Walking in Dead Men's Shoes, and that's about my dad and Black men who have laid footprints for their kids to walk into, whether they were in their lives or not. They lay a print. But this book is called You Should Have Left Me Alone, right? Because there are people, I'm actually pretty laid back, and people don't believe it, but I started off extremely shy as a kid. Like if you had to speak in front of the class, my knees would knock and my stomach would cramp, but I'd go and throw up. I mean, I really, and even though I've been in radio and teaching and stuff like that, there's still a part of me that goes, And so I pray, just like I did before it came in the air this morning. I said, Lord, let the words of my mouth and meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight, oh Lord, my strength and my redeemer. And so I speak, you get called to speak, whether it's teaching or lecturing or now as a candidate. And so I don't want to bring shame to my God, shame to my family, or shame to my people. And I've heard Pastor Wall preach, and I've seen you speak. And so, when you let God take over and the Holy Ghost take over, people, even when I was teaching, my students would come up to me and say, somebody told me blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, wow, that's really cool. Who said that? You did. And I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, let me write that down. That's pretty good. That was a good day. Or when you preach sermons or you're teaching, and there is a sincerity and an authenticity when you know that God is using you. And I really believe that God is using me for such a time as this. He did for Black Teachers Matter. And for many years, I was fighting and advocating for education of Black teachers. June 2020, God, again, I'm sitting there watching television. It was COVID, the height of COVID. And you're seeing people with balloons on their cars because they survived COVID. And my daughter was graduating from University of Maine. And I was like, well, who's celebrating our kids? Because all the graduations, everything for college kids and high school kids was shut down. And God said, you do it. And I didn't have a car. And God will tell you something. He'd be like, yeah, you got jokes. Like I don't even have a car to celebrate with balloons and streamers for my own kid. And you want me to do what? And again, that's what we had in common, Black Boston, COVID-19. And so I went to COVID-19 and they were like, no, we're not doing that. We're doing this. I was like, okay. So I went back to God. I said, see, I went to the group. You told me to do this. They don't want to do it. He said, I didn't tell them. I told you. I was like, you know what? Stop it. And so I went on Facebook again. And it lit up.
I remember that.
It lit up, right?
That.
And so I said, okay. And the commencement caravan resulted from that. And where we
started at Mattapan Square.
Mattapan Square and back to Mattapan Square. And people just started hitting me up.
How many cars was there?
It was over 70 vehicles.
Yeah.
Including an armored vehicle. And we had motorcycles and people's cars and everything. And while we were organizing this thing, people would say, oh, it'd be nice if we had balloons. Yep, that would be nice. I ain't got balloon money. Well, I'll pay for it. It'd be nice if we had T-shirts with the graduates. Yep, that would be nice too. I ain't got T-shirt money. And then one of the main streets came up and paid for it and said, would it be nice if we had banners? Yep, that would be nice too. And Berkshire Bank. So all this, So when God puts it, he brings you to it, he'll bring you through it. And I'm believing the same thing for this campaign. I'm out there praying with people. And it's deep because, Mingos and I were out there getting signatures to get in the ballot. And so you have you get this elevator speech down. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good day. Are you a registered voter in Boston? Can I get your name and address? And a young lady said to me, I don't have an address. I've been living in a van with my daughter for a year. You'd have to be kind of cold-blooded individual to just ignore that and go, okay, well, never mind. And you go to the next person. And so God has me encountering people. And I told her, I says, I have a home now, but my husband and my daughter and I were homeless for 4.5 months before we got this house. God is no respecter of persons. If he do it for me, he'll do it for you. Can I pray with you? And I'm out there praying, and then she's crying and she's hugging me and I'm hugging her. Or, and even in the Bible, the apostles were, I don't have this, but I have prayer. And so I've been, another sister, I saw her sign somebody's paper. So I was like, okay, she can sign mine. So I said, well, can you sign mine too? Why are you signing that? She goes, okay, but you got to hurry up because I just been diagnosed with epilepsy and I can't stand long. Wow. And so I said, you see that cane over there? That cane is mine. And that cane is the residual effects of me having survived 3 strokes. And I was totally paralyzed. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I barely need that cane. God can do it for me. He can do it for you. So we stand out there in American Legion Highway and Stop and Shop praying. And she's, hugging me. And then she goes in and she shops. And, there's certain parts of the campaign where you just get swamped with other candidates. You get swamped, right? And so she's coming out the door. And other people, can you sign this guy? She said, no, I'm not, forget all y'all, but that's my homie right there. So God is he's showing up. And so Domingos de Rosa, this brother, I'm going to try not to cry. I just lost my brother, my blood brother, when they're identical twins. But I remember last time when he was running at City Council, and we were rocking. And he told me, he said, you got a brother for life now. I'm going to be carrying your casket because that's how we're bonded now. We're family now. This was last election when he was running for at-large. So I said, yeah, whatever. But I've watched him not just be a brother to me, but I've watched these kids bicycle up to him. Coach Mingos, what do you need? Or grown men come up and cry and hold him and say, when I was a kid, you saved my life because you helped me, you taught me how to swim, and you got me out the streets. So he really has encouraged me. And so I'm encouraging, Black people in particular to get involved. Because as we were out there getting signatures, I'm busy. I'm all set. No. I'm not being political. I'm not the people who are in this country. This is a democracy, and democracy is being threatened on all levels. Now, I'm old enough. We're old enough. I'm going to speak for Pastor Wall. He's silent right here, the engineering. Them gray hairs. He earned them. We are all old enough because we're the generation that fought for voter rights, civil rights. We remember when we didn't have it.
That's right.
And there's generations that have come up after us that don't know what they didn't have. And so they're taking it for granted.
That's right.
And so, the orange menace in the White House, that felon, has really made it very clear that you cannot take democracy and freedom for granted. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press. The fact that we are in a radio station that is independently and Black owned, right. You cannot take that for granted.
FCC license also.
Hello. I don't know. I lost count of how many platforms y'all got now. What, 52, 59? I don't know. But I remember when he was building it from 1 and way before it was FM. And it has been a struggle every step of the way. And I remember having to try to locate the transmitter, and that was a thing, and where it had to be because you need an engineer. And I've been in radio for a little while, TV a little bit. And so, there are people, there's still time to register to vote.
That's right.
There's still time to vote.
When's the last day to vote? Is it August?
August 30th.
August 30th.
And I'll double check on that because I don't have all my papers in front of me. But there is still time to register to vote. The preliminary election is September 9th, but not every district has a preliminary election.
That's right, because everybody doesn't have a opponent, or there's only one opponent, or they're unopposed.
Well, they could be unopposed, or if there's two or less,
Right.
it goes directly to November.
Right.
Now in District 5, there are 3. In District 7, which was Tanya Fernandez
11.
Anderson, there's
11 people.
But 18 people pulled papers. And 14 or 15 pulled papers for at large. And so there are 10 people on the ballot there. But out of those 10, there will be 8 that move forward because it's 4 at large city councilors. There are 4 people on the ballot for mayor. Let's be clear.
Yes.
You're only hearing about 2 because those 2 are pumping money into the newspapers, into the media. And the newspapers and the media are owned by corporations now. They're not free. Mm-hmm. And when I say free, they're not free to actually have journalistic integrity enough to tell you what's going on. I have been at all of the mayoral forums, and I can tell you that they have not been reporting the accuracy of what really is being said and what's going on. And that's a shame, because that's what they're supposed to do. And give a true picture. And I've watched certain nonprofits and certain organizations throw their weight behind the money.
And as a nonprofit, you're not supposed to endorse anybody.
Well,
you're not supposed to.
Well, because I'm a teacher. Let me teach somebody. I looked that up, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember the power of the black church. Mm-hmm. That's where we went. First off, during slavery, that was the only place we could go and meet each other and not be killed. But then again, we had to sit there and listen to the slave message about, be good to your master, be kind to your master, even if he beats you, even if he kills you. And they put Christianity and Jesus in that. And that was a lie straight from the pit of hell. So we've always had power in the black church, especially, through the 50s and 60s and 40s and 30s and everything. The 501c,
that's where our strength was.
And the 501c3 nonprofit rules were started in 1954. Think about that. So when we look, because I'm a teacher, we're going to learn something today. I looked at the first nonprofit in the history of that. I looked at when the 501c3s, and there's been a couple of different iterations, but at every single point, it was the juncture where black power is becoming effective. Mm-hmm. So now you have this. And let's be clear, the white evangelicals haven't had a problem backing up that orange menace and some of his minions. So don't tell me about separation of church and state. And In God We Trust is still in the courthouses. They used to have prayer in schools and everything. I remember if you didn't get up,
they took up
pledge allegiance to the flag and all this other stuff. And my father forbid us to pledge allegiance to the flag. And he said, I'm not going to have my children pledge allegiance to a country that treats them like a second-class citizen. And they had corporal punishment then. So they could take you down in the basement and try to beat you and rattan you. And we refused. We was like, my father said, nobody's putting their hands on us. And so, I was in the Nation of Islam when I was younger. So that wasn't happening. But when you look at how this country systematically has crippled black people, let's talk about black people.
That's
We're
right.
the only ones in this country who've had bombs dropped on us. Bombs at Tulsa, right? Bombs in Dallas, bombs in Philadelphia, bombs dropped on us. They didn't do that to anybody else. We're the only ones in this country who have worked for free. Let me say this, for free. Now, you may feel, my immigrant brothers and sisters, that you're being paid slave wages, but the fact that it says wages means you weren't a slave. We built this country for free, still have not gotten paid, and because we laid the blueprint in terms of, and there were people who were from, Marcus Garvey's Jamaican, right? Du Sable established Chicago. So there are people and black peoples when we didn't allow ourselves to be divided.
That's right.
To be...
Say that again, because that's one of our major problems, being divided.
Being divided.
Competition instead of being collaborative.
Well... but it's not really competition because we're all at the bottom of the barrel. So
exactly,
what are we competing for? Space?
But obviously they don't realize that,
Because, Malcolm said, only a fool will let your enemy educate your children.
That's right.
And so when we formed HBCUs because it was legal for us to read, we were being murdered if we were trying to just learn how to read.
Right. And it's so sad because a lot of our people don't want to read, don't like to read. Some can't read.
Which is crazy, which brings me to another thing about the freedom of the press. The latest assault has been from the White House on education. Yeah. And that's what authoritarian governments do. They assault everything that will allow you to be independent and stand on your own 2 feet, whether it is spiritually, physically, financially, educationally,
mentally,
psychologically, beating us down. There's a reason why you have so many people trying to self-medicate out of the pain. Yes, there's a reason why black people of color, but black people specifically, have higher cancer levels, blood pressure, right? Yeah. High blood pressure, diabetes,
asthma,
sugar diabetes, asthma, because
all those diseases
that are killing us.
That's right.
And it's by design.
Of course.
If you look at where we're forced to live, it's always places that are closer to highways, closer to industrial waste, environmentally going to kill it. So there's, part of my platform is this environmental justice. There are some things you may want to eat healthy, and then you realize when you go to your store, those foods are not offered. They're so expensive you can't afford them.
That's right.
And as a black person, as a black mother, you just don't want to hear your kids say, "Mama, I'm hungry."
Right.
And so when you go to the store after your 2 or 3 jobs, and you go to the store that may or may not be open, may or may not be safe, that is usually, and it's been documented, the prices are higher. Yeah. And there was a group of high school students last year that actually surveyed the different stores and saw that in certain areas, the same store had different prices.
Right,
and so their
right,
justification was security and stuff like that. But you're part of a chain.
I remember when we shut down Stop and Shop because they had them rodents running through there.
Ugh.
Really. You're not going to see no rodents running in no Stop and Shop up in Brookline.
You might, but they usually have 2 legs and they're running for office. But you might. They dress better though, and they sure eat. They eat better because the food is better.
Definitely, that's why we got. I guess we got to go back to basics. We got to start growing our own food.
But even then, when you grow your own food, you have to test the soil because the soil inside of the city may be poison.
That's true. Someone was telling me that the other day.
It may be poison.
Yeah.
And so you can't, and so there, UMass Boston, I think they still do that. We can bring in part of your
samples.
soil. You can bring in soil samples, and I think they turn around in about a week. And so, environmental justice is important because there's such a thing as environmental racism where we're allowed to live, and the quality of the air, the quality, even electronic devices. If you go to the communities inside the urban communities, you see these funny electronic things that have these microwaves and stuff. And, so there's certain parts, RFK, that's conspiracy stuff, and there's certain things that are real.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are real, and search engines, I'm not going to name certain ones because they're not paying this radio station nor me to promote them. However, you can do some research and find out what they have been doing to us systematically. The father, supposedly of gynecology, was experimenting on slave women with no anesthesia, slave women and babies with no anesthesia. This country has a history of sterilizing black and brown women, especially women that have been incarcerated. But even before that, it was, I'm not going to deliver this baby unless you agree to this. And then there were women that were sterilized without their knowledge.
Exactly.
So there's a
we've been used, abused, and confused forever. And
told it's our fault.
Right.
Yeah.
First of all, we didn't ask to come here, okay?
We did not. And we're the only ones
that
did it.
We were stolen, and we were kidnapped, and yet we can't even get no reparations, okay? But you can give it to the Japanese, you can give it
everybody
to the
else.
Jews,
Germans. Even Germans got reparations, right? And so that's also a part of the Haitian history. Haiti, Sakbase Nabule, was the first free black country in the Western Hemisphere, right? But they freed themselves from France. But France said, you have to pay us reparations because you used to be our property. And if you don't pay us reparations for what we lost, they paid, even in this country, slave owners were given reparations, but not us. And so the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, along with other colonial powers, conspired together against this island to keep them poor. So we as black Americans need to understand the history of Jamaica, the history of Haiti, the history of, Dominican Republic, and our history, most importantly. There's a reason why our books are being banned, our education being banned under DEI. So DEI supposedly is diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it really stands for definitely earned it. because we definitely earned all of this stuff right here. Stop playing. And so I'm an educator. That's my calling, man. Yes. I teach. So quality education, affordable housing, environmental justice, community empowerment, healthcare equity, disability advocacy, and senior services. That's, my main platforms, but it's about empowering my people. Mm-hmm. And my people now are not just black people. All my life. Yeah. Yeah. My father was one of the architects of Operation Exodus, which became Medco. So I've grown up in this, but I've shied away from the politics part of it because, my father was murdered when I was 13. I know. And it can get my
that's traumatizing.
Well, yeah.
That's very traumatizing.
My nana from Mobile, Alabama, used to say, "Baby, if it don't kill you, it'll make you stronger." And I remember saying, "But Nana, it can kill you." Mm-hmm. And then they killed my dad. Yeah. And then they're still killing. I was talking to Andrea James about them building, hundreds of $millions and building.
Okay, so let's take a pause there because I want to talk about this. Okay. First of all, they were looking at putting $50 million for a new women's prison, right? $50 million. Right. Now they done increased it to $380-something million. Who are you planning to incarcerate?
That's a rhetorical question, right? For those of us in the room. But for those of us who slow and don't know, what is happening with immigration and the dangerous and really evil, when you think of the narrative, is that, which is backed up by the media, is everybody thinks it's them. It's not going to come for you. It's going to be them. That's some even the Latino. That's some bad Mexicans. That's those bad Latinos. That's not me. Until people with Trump, Latinos with Trump T-shirts are getting deported too and get snatched, right?
I know.
And that's the test case to say we coming for all y'all. And if anybody has taken history class about the Nazi Germany. They're following that playbook. Yeah, Project 2025 is following that playbook and making it sound like it's them. It's not you. You're fine. It's them. They're not talking about me. They're talking about them.
Right. They talked about that 2025 even before the election, and they knew what was in it, and they knew who wrote it, who was the author of it.
But remember, the El Salvadoran president was in the White House with the Orange Menace, right? I don't even want to give his name power. And they were talking about the innocent father that was snatched. American government said, yep, that was a mistake, was snatched. But then the president from El Salvador said, I'm not going to bring him back here because you're paying me to keep him here. And then they also talked about taking American citizens from prisons
and sending them somewhere.
And who's it mostly in the prisons?
Us.
Thank you. Case closed, step down. Thank you very much. That's what we're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're talking about. And the other thing is that we need people of courage. If you look at people in my campaign, I am unapologetically black. Black, depending on how my hair looks, people will walk up to me and speak Haitian, Cape Verdean Creole, Haitian Creole, Cape Verdean Creole, Spanish, Arabic, now and then, if I have a ponytail, Chinese, which is kind of deep. But I know who I am. And somebody needs to speak up for black people. We don't have any black Americans in the city council right now.
And that makes no sense. That makes no sense. Because no one's really representing that city council.
But the other beauty is that as black people, we've always included everybody else.
That's right.
So when you look at my campaign, we are the rainbow. Black, white, gay, straight, slip sliding, flying and gliding. But we all want justice. And that's the commonality between when we were fighting for civil rights, voting rights. We knew that we needed liberation for everybody. Right. And if you're not free, then I'm not free either. So some of my white sisters, they couldn't be any whiter, man. They got blue eyes and freckles and blonde hair. But like Sharon, we know that you stand for everybody, and we're here. I have, males and females. I'm down with my black brothers. We can't do this by ourselves.
That's right.
And black women are very strong. We have carried people on our back But I'm tired of being, Captain Save-A-Ho. We saving everybody else, and then they turn around. And when we needed them for Kamala Harris, 96% of black women supported, and she was problematic. Don't get me wrong. She was problematic, but 96% of black women voted for her. But then when we turned around and looked for our white sisters, they, in increasing numbers, voted for the other one that said, who is he's convicted of sexual assault. Why are you voting against your best interest?
34 felonies.
He couldn't get a job at McDonald's. He couldn't get a job at the post office, and he's the president of the United States, saying his craziness, right? And then, I'll just have to say, release the Epstein files without being redacted, because we know you're in there. We know. And then in terms of voting, people talk about voting doesn't matter. I know Julie Mejia begs to differ, because she won by one vote. One vote. Every vote matters, and I need people's votes. September 9th. Don't wait. I've heard people say, I'm going to wait till the real election. They're all real.
They are real. And
if you have someone that you're supporting, that you want to be in office because they make a difference. Domingos and I said, we're making a difference because we're changing the game. We don't owe people in power. I have a 501c3, Black Teachers Matter, and Domingos has his own business. So I'm not worried about somebody promoting me or demoting me or deriding me or whatever. I don't have to. The people will put me in position. And that's how we report to. Not the senator, not the mayor, not the governor, the people. And just like your show is people, and we got the power.
That's right. People power with Priscilla.
There you go. And remember when I said that, and I said, you can come up with a better name, but that's who you are to me, sis. Because you were out there, and the people were with you, and the people are still with you.
Yeah.
And the people united will never be defeated.
That's right.
But you want them united for the right thing.
Exactly.
That's the only thing. You want them united for the right thing, for the right cause, and you have to have an educated population, and we don't.
That's right.
The media is only showing parts of it.
That's right. They're only telling half the story. That's why, thank God, we have Boston Praise Radio on TV, because we are the people and we have the power. And I keep saying this, the only time your vote don't count is when you don't cast it.
Even then it counts because they'll see how many people didn't participate.
I know, but a lot of times it's us and then, our benefits. We got to get our people geared up, and some of them ain't excited about anything.
I ain't mad at them. I'm not mad at them because when I thought about it too, and when I'm out there in the trail, it doesn't make a difference. I show up to those meetings and I vote for this and they do whatever they want to do. Let's be clear. The current administration wants to put a bus lane
in the middle of Blue Hill Avenue.
All the way straight up Blue Hill Avenue.
Which makes no sense.
And I've been at every community meeting. The meetings, the most recent, which was about a month or so ago, nobody who lived in the community wanted their bus lane.
That's one
Nobody.
thing. That's one
except
thing.
for the elected officials. They were elected officials that voted for that.
That's what I say. They don't listen to us. They do. We say one thing, they do opposite.
Well, the bike lanes. The bike lanes, right? District 5. And don't just believe me. You'll see it for yourself. You can go down Morton Street and you'll see bike lanes and no sidewalks. I have a cane. What are people that have disabilities supposed to do? Be competing in the street? Ed Flynn, I was at a hearing at City Council, and he wanted, how you have right turn on red? So he was talking to the traffic people, and they called him in for a hearing. He says, can you at least get a delay? Because if you are a pedestrian and you're trying to cross the street, and they've given a right turn on red signal, there's no hesitation, so you're fighting with the car. And they voted him down. Right? So I know what I'm getting into in terms of, but no weapon formed against me shall prosper. Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Right. I'm first standing up for God, and I'm standing up for my people. The people need a voice that is not afraid.
That's right. That
has some courage that says, look, that is not a good idea. The other thing that differentiates me from the other candidates is I'm older. I mean, no offense.
You are.
But there's something
you done been through some things. You done lived through some things.
A little something. I mean, what works, what doesn't work. And I'm also very collaborative. I don't want to be the smartest one in the room. If I'm the smartest one in the room, we in trouble. So I'm about, and I'm not threatened by anybody. I want people that know better.
Right.
And it's anybody who's ever been in a team or a choir or something like that, you want the best soprano and alto and tenor and bass, and then that becomes something. That symphony of those strong voices becomes something else.
That's right.
Something much better. Right. If you're on a team, you would not have had the Chicago Bulls as champions. It couldn't have been just Michael Jordan. It had to be Scottie Pippen. It had to be, Rodman. But there were also players that were on the bench. They had a strong bench. Yeah. And so you had to have these people. You had to have these players. We need to bring all of the players to the table that are living in the neighborhoods, that know what's going on. And I'm hearing things that are happening that if I wasn't a candidate, I wouldn't know.
We got a caller. Yay. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, Miss Priscilla. It's Bernina. Me and the youth. I'm here with the youth, and they have a question for you guys.
Okay.
So we know that District 5 has Enrique Pepin, and also Winston Pierre also running.
Yes.
We're wondering what is different about Sharon Hinton's platform, and what differentiates her from those other candidates. Why is she running? What specific policy platforms does she have that she will implement when she gets into office?
So, can I take this one?
Of course.
How much time I got? So, thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it coming for youth because we need you guys. The youth have been disengaged on purpose, not because you guys are not interested, but some of the mechanisms that are in the system are denying people full participation. Let me be clear. When I went to pull papers for signatures just to get in the ballot, they were not printed in Haitian Creole or Cape Verdean Creole. Boston has the third largest Haitian population in this country. And when I tried to get them printed, because you can't alter the pages, they said legally we don't have to do it. So it's printed in Spanish, it's printed in Mandarin, Chinese, and Vietnamese, but not. So that's one of the first things I would do to make this process more inclusive and representative of the people who live in District 5, which is Mattapan, Hyde Park, Reedville, and Rosendale, right? So then also, one of the other things, and I don't want to let everything out of the bag because I want to make it to the final. I have been approached from people who are on the ground, who live in this, who are policymakers, and it's interesting how people will come to me because they know I'll speak it, but there's a sense of fear amongst the voting population. There's fear because of immigration. And ICE has been snatching people off the streets. Let's be clear. They're doing it in Boston. The mayor, did speak in front of Congress, and she stood up and said Boston is a sanctuary city, and there's certain things we won't do to cooperate with the feds in terms of snatching citizens. But that next week, 300 people got snatched off the street of Boston. So actually providing legal and this, legal representation for everyone, because what's happening is people are disappearing. I was in South Boston and was kicked out of a public meeting, which was really kind of deep. This black woman with this cane surrounded by cops, and this is a private event, you got to go, and it wasn't as a public event. So I am seeing as a candidate how certain powers are flexing and exerting this pressure to suppress freedom of democracy, because it is a democracy, it's supposed to be. So the other thing is that I have a lot of young people. And I'm an educator. I'm not a career politician. I think there should be term limits on everybody, in every single office. Don't be sitting there 30 years and it's the same person. Is always, always, always a better idea. So bringing people together in every single neighborhood. I love what Chuck Turner did in terms of having an office there where you can come in and you don't have to go all the way down to City Hall and get a ticket or get towed. I want to push back in Rosendale and actually across the city for the squares and streets now and stop that, because what's happening is businesses are being displaced. There was a provision in the squares and streets for tenants that were displaced, but not for businesses. And there are businesses, they're being pushed out, shut down. And it has to be re-examined in terms of what affordable housing is. There's been land that was snatched from black people that is being given away to developers. There's a very unholy and healthy relationship between the city and between developers and unfortunately some of the CDCs. That's making it incredible and unaffordable. In terms of young people, I want my young people, and anybody that's younger than me right now is young people. If you're not dead, you're a young person. You still got a usage. And so what's different from me, which earlier is what I said, I am actually standing up for seniors. Nobody else has that on their platform. I have a disability. Nobody else is standing up for that. And that is 13% of residents in Hyde Park have disabilities. I didn't realize it was that high.
Wow.
And the other reason is, the other thing that I want to stand up for in terms of healthcare equity, Reedville, Rosendale, Hyde Park, since Kearney Hospital shut down, we're the furthest away from all the medical. I mean, you know, we top Boston. When I say we always have the top 10, top 5 hospitals in the world. People fly from all around the world to come here, but it's not necessarily accessible to us.
Right, right.
And so there's in community empowerment, it has to go from the cradle to the grave. I would put civics back in school.
Thank you.
Because we need to know what it takes to support a democracy. And then I'm also supporting an elected school committee. I've always supported an elected school committee. 120,000 people at the last election voted for an elected school committee. And the mayor at first said she wanted to go for hybrid. I'm an educator. And I asked her, I was part of 9 people that were in her office, and said, okay, but there has been no successful hybrid school committee in the country the size of Boston. Now she has said no. She wants to have it totally appointed. And Boston is the only school committee in all of Massachusetts that's appointed, not elected. So that's, I mean, there's more, and you can call me 617-777-0657 or www.sharonhintond5.com.
All right, I think we got an important guest. An important caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Well, let me say, all the people of Boston are very
my
important.
God, my favorite city councilor.
Most of
I'm honored.
The 2 young ladies who we are listening to today, who I support. This is Charles Yancey calling, asking everyone who's listening to mobilize folks and to ensure that Sharon Hilton, District 5, is on the ballot in November, and then in November come out with your family and friends as well.
Yes,
right.
Thank
Elect her
you.
to District 5 City
Thank you.
Council. We need a strong, independent voice on the City Council.
Thank you so much, Councilor Yancey.
Thank you.
Councilor Yancey is my favorite city councilor.
He's my
as well.
favorite city councilor.
32 years on the city council. No type of scandal. He didn't just stay in his district, in District 4. He went all
That's
over
right.
the city.
That's right.
And it was because of Councilor Yancey that we had that prayer ministry
That's right.
at City Hall
That's
for
right.
5 years. You know,
I've known him longer than you. I worked with his mom
yeah.
in the school department. I remember way before he ran, and I was meet him. He was so loving. I'm gonna go deep now, because when you're from Boston, you know people, right? His mom is so awesome, and there's actually a room at the Mattapan Library named for her.
Yeah.
So sweet, so loving. She was always supportive, and I met him when he would come and see his mom. And I said, if your son runs for office, I'm going to support him. And then he did, and I always have.
Yes,
so thank
yes.
you so much for your endorsement. I really love you. I really appreciate you.
Councilor Yancey was actually part of my master's thesis. He had just got elected. I didn't realize that. It was 1983, right, Councilor Yancey? I still call him
Yes.
Councilor. You go.
That's right. Always.
Yeah.
Well, let me remind both of you that I ran for office in 1979 and 1981. I lost both times. So I know, Sister Priscilla, you've run for the City Council in the past. I'm encouraging you to continue to look at representing the people either at the state level, at the city level, or the federal level, because you have a very important message for our community and for our city, for our state and our country. And you've already heard from Sharon Hilton, and you know where she stands on a lot of these issues. We just need some strong voices in city and state and federal government.
Thank you so much. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Yes,
He done made my day.
Yes, I appreciate you, Councilor Yancey. I'm going to actually call you later because I want to invite you to something. I'm going to send you a text, okay?
Oh,
I
okay.
want
All right.
I want to invite you. I need your help, Councilor Yancey. So, thank you so much for calling. And we appreciate you listening, you know.
I do.
This radio station has been a blessing, I know, to many, many, many people. We would not know half of the things
right.
we know if we didn't have Pastor Bruce Wall, Pastor
Absolutely.
Hobbs, Mamleo. It's just
People power, Priscilla.
yes, people power with Priscilla. We the people, we have the power. And I'm sticking to it.
My name on this channel was Sister Living Proof.
Yeah. Sister Living Proof.
I'm going to let you go. There may be other callers, but I just want to thank
you
both
so
of
much.
you,
Thank
and
you.
particularly Sharon for running and
Thank
for exposing some of the contradictions of our city today.
Thank you
And
so
just
much.
keep up the fight, and I will be getting back in touch with
Yes, sir. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
All right.
Thank
My
you,
favorite city
Counselor.
counselor,
Mm-hmm.
you. God bless.
Charles Yancey.
Yeah.
I receive it. God bless
Yes,
you.
he's gonna always be a city council. 32 years.
I know that's
Please,
right.
Stop it.
I know that's right. And the shenanigans
I know.
that happened to get him out of office. That's,
Actually, we're actually, when we leave this radio station, we're going down to the Attorney General's office for a hearing around with the National Coalition Against Predatory Lending with Blue Hub, okay, Blue Hub Capital. The fact that Mara Haley signed that bill, I got a problem with that. We know Elise Cherry is her person that's been funding her. Not only has she been funding her, she's been funding some of the other people. But for her to sign that bill, she could have took it out. But that shows you where her loyalties is. That shows you who she really care about.
So
They don't really care about us.
when the first bus lane showed up,